Right, so what we're going to be doing is annealing the aluminium. So we'll get our stuff ready. So we've got our oxy, our flint lighter. We're going to anneal it and we're going to bend it and shape it into here, and then we're going to weld it, tack it in position. So we've got our welding helmet, our gloves, our welder, grounded. We've got ourselves a couple of big clamps, heavy duty ones, and a big hammer, nylon face hammer, so we don't damage the aluminium. Now, many people have seen YouTube videos on how to anneal aluminium, where you blacken the material with soot and then you heat it up, and when you burn the soot away it becomes annealing temperature. Well, that only really works on thin material. On thicker material, the soot tends to burn away before you get to the annealing temperature, so you really don't know how hot it is. And if you start trying to work the aluminium here, it'll crack because it's hardened, so we really need to soften it. The easiest way to gauge how hot the aluminium is to get yourself a hardwood wedge like this, shaped to a wedge, right? And I'll show you how I use it to test the aluminium temperature. So when it's cold, it doesn't scratch real well. It's a little bit grippy, doesn't burn off. When it gets to annealing temperature, it becomes very slippery, like it's soap. At the moment, it's not. It grips. So we'll get the oxy going and we'll get some temperature into here and we'll get it tested. We'll put some gloves on. Right. So we'll blacken the area like before, like everybody does. So this is just a old cutting torch. The oxy is good to see the heat travel when it starts to travel the heat, but it might be burning the soot off, but it's not annealing. So you can feel it is very grippy. So we burned all the soot off, but the aluminium's nowhere near pliable. We test with our little block, it still doesn't glide over the aluminium surface. So we know the soot is burnt off prior to getting to our temperature because our aluminium's so thick. Now, if we don't have a gauge to be able to gauge how hot the aluminium is, we run the risk of just melting it. So that's where our little block comes into it. We hit, we test it on the corner. Now it's starting to burn the block. So we know we're starting to get to the right temperature. Block slips, becomes very slippery. Very slippery, and you can see we're starting to burn the timber with the temperature. And you can tell because it just slips really easily. Right, so now we can just bend our aluminium nice and easy, just like that. So as the aluminium cools down, you give it another hit. All right, warm him up again. There you go, that's us forming it. We'll set up and do the next one. The aluminium doesn't take very long to go from annealing temperature to a molten pile of whatever. So constantly checking just to make sure that you're not getting too hot. And you don't want to hold the oxy in one place. You keep moving it around. If this was steel, you'll see it start to glow. You can see the heat, but aluminium you can't tell until it's too late. And you're starting to see the temperature change, the way the block reacts. Now it's starting to burn. So we know we're starting to get close to the temperature. There you have it. Looks a little bit ugly for now, but once we weld that up, it will all come together. So there's the underside. Cools down quite rapidly, these things.